Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Julie Mann and I show men and women how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really delighted because today I'm talking to Karen Bashford. We were having a bit of a laugh before you came on, weren't we, Karen? Because Karen has so much light coming through the window, it was difficult to see. So now she's holding an umbrella. Love a bit of improvisation. So for those of you that don't yet know Karen, she is a coach, a mentor, a speaker and an author. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, Julie.
And if you need to put that brolly down, just put it down. So tell us about the kind of household you grew up in. You know, did you get what you needed as a child?
I thought I did. Unfortunately, I have since discovered I didn't. My household was middle class, sort of low to middle class. A brother and a sister and my parents. We did really well in one sense because we weren't starving, we weren't without as such. But I discovered as an adult that my parents had never ever been able to tell me they loved me. And they weren't huggers. So as a child, I was well looked after, but I didn't feel that sense of love because they didn't really hold me unless they had to. And they certainly didn't say it. They didn't ever say, I love you. Even now, my mother cannot say, I love you.
Well, she can, but she chooses not to, I guess.
She stumbles.
Yes.
When I actually state, I love you, all she can say is, thank you.
Yes.
That's as far as she can say it. She can never physically come out and say to me, I love you.
So when did you realise, Karen, that wasn't the experience of other children? Is that how you realised that? You said you were an adult. What kind of age were you?
Funny enough, I was working with a coach who said, what is it you need the most at this moment in time? And it just blurted out to me to hear my parents tell me they love me. I just sat there and said, I have no idea where that come from. I proceeded to burst into tears.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So what happened when you left home? Tell us your story.
I left home at 21 to get married. Worst decision of my life, at the time anyway. I was escaping from lack of freedom, I suppose. They weren't controlling in any way, but it was like I was 21 years old, I was earning money, I wanted to go and have a life. So my choice to go and marry a man because I thought he loved me and I thought I loved him. And it was a case of, I can go and do what I want to do then. Didn't quite work out like that, unfortunately.
What happened?
Driving up to the church, the driver, bless him, kept saying, I can turn around, I can turn around. And I kept sitting there thinking, yes, please, yes. But you know what? That judgment, that sense of, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? And all the rest of it kicked in. And even though my father was sitting next to me, and he would have been fine with it if I'd actually said to him, Dad, please, can we turn around? I didn't. And my life with my husband was very lonely, even though I was married. He spent a lot of time down the pub with his friends. Very, very insecure, wouldn't do anything around the house. Definitely not interested in improving himself or our home. Everything fell to me, despite the fact he'd trained at Harrods and was a chef. I even had to cook our dinners. And even that wasn't right because everything I did was wrong.
So what was it like living in, what was that like emotionally for you?
Emotionally, I cut off. it wasn't until later when I realized that my parents hadn't loved me that I'd actually married him because I felt he could love me and I was looking for love. He was slightly older than me, but when I look back, I realized that actually he was probably far more insecure than I was. His parents, his father was a very controlling man. You didn't go against him at all. He really was, you do as I say, and if you don't like it, tough luck. And his mother was very dominated, never said boo to a goose. And again, I realized that she couldn't show love to her son any more than his father could. So we were mirroring each other, basically. Both of us looking for love, neither of us able to give it to the other because we were so different in other ways. I was very vivacious, outgoing, and sort of, loved connecting with people and, socializing. He was the kind of person that was stay within a close community. And that close community were his friends, and that was it. So I would rebel against having to go to the pub all the time because that was his idea of fun. He objected to me wanting to go out and being with my friends, so we clashed, but I got the silent treatment. He would make sure he let me know that he didn't like what I was doing by giving me the silent treatment.
So it was a passive aggressive type of response. Yeah. So I know that you now help people who have been through trauma, have been through abuse. Why do you think people get into an abusive relationship, and why do you think they stay in them, Karen?
I got into 2 abusive relationships. My husband was very much manipulating and emotionally controlling. I was looking for love as much as he was. So if you don't feel whole in yourself, you seek it through somebody else. So I was seeking love through my husband. My second partner, who was abusive, physically abusive, and in some ways sexually abusive, although I don't often acknowledge that. I prefer to put that to one side because it was something, it was like I was treated as a trollop by him. So it's not something I like to advertise, I suppose. But he was quite physically abusive at times. He was on drugs, unfortunately, alcohol. He was a Jekyll and Hyde character. And again, I become involved with him because having divorced my husband, I then realized that I still wanted to be loved. I hadn't done any work on myself as such to fill my own love tank. So yeah, we go into those kinds of relationships thinking they're going to fulfill us, when in fact they do the total opposite. They drain us.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to looking for love in all the wrong places. There was a time in my life where that was the theme. So how long did you stay in that relationship, and what had you stay even though you knew it wasn't right?
My husband I stayed with for 16 years. I'd made a promise. I was very not religious as such, but we'd got married in a church, and my upbringing was when you make a promise you stick to it. So I stuck to my promise. The final crunch came when I lost my job because of him. I'd worked for the bank, Barclays Bank, for 20 years, taken redundancy, gone and got another job. And I got called into the office one day and told, we don't want you anymore. You're not doing the work. I had never been so humiliated in my life because I used to think I was really good at what I did. At the time, I was administrator for an insurance company. and I thought I was doing a really good job, but looking back, I wasn't able to do the job because he was so emotionally draining. He wouldn't allow me to sleep, that basically the company said, we don't want you. And it was like a wake-up call. What do I do now? Because I'd always been the worker. I'd always provided the money. Interestingly, despite the fact he would spend it, I was the one always providing it. And it was like, oh, so what do I do now? How do I manage now? And it was, I actually drove home and got stopped by the police for speeding because I was doing a 60 in 40-mile speed limit, and it just happened to be that day that they had the cameras out checking, speed police out checking. And I was so grateful in some ways they did stop me, because it made me stop, review, and then go forward. Because the policewoman said, you know you were speeding? And I looked at her and I said, yes, I know, I've just lost my job. I was in tears. And she was very kind and said, well, I'm going to let you off, but slow down. And it was like something in my head went, that's very valid. Slow down. Look at what's been going on. Instead of ignoring it, start to look at it. Because I'd chosen to ignore it. I knew our relationship was not working. I knew from the day I married him it wasn't going to work. But I'd made that commitment and I stuck to it. But at that point, it was a case of, it's not working, it's time to move on. And that was the turning point. I realized that if I'd stayed with him, I'd probably ended up in a mental hospital. He was having such an impact on me. The second relationship lasted 20 years on and off. And interestingly, when it first started, it was a case of he controlled me. But gradually, as I started to get to know myself, the dynamics changed, and I didn't control him, but he was constantly learning from me in me changing myself. So when we did finally go our separate ways, he had changed in himself. He started to spend a lot more time considering what other people wanted, how he behaved. He had got promotion at work because he was proving that he was a good person, whereas before he would always have problems at work. And for myself, it was a case of, I got to know me, and that made all the difference.
Fabulous. So you mentioned learning, things that you learned, and I think life is all about learning and growing into the best version of ourselves we can be. What would you say has been the biggest lesson, Karen, that you've ever had to learn?
Trust me.
Yeah.
Literally, I had to learn to trust myself, and that I was capable of making decisions myself. And it didn't matter what other people thought, because I come up against so much criticism when I divorced my husband. And then when I did things that were for me in my second relationship, it's like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. No, I should be doing that because I need to respect myself. I need to do things for me and not constantly give to others, because that's all I ever did was give to others. And it's a bit of a wake-up call when people started saying, Karen, you're not the same. I used to be able to ask you and you do. And it was like, hey, yeah, because I didn't know any better. I didn't understand that in giving to you, I was always taking from myself. But actually, it's time that I gave to myself, and it's okay to give to myself.
Wow, I am so glad you've said that. That is such a brilliant lesson. If that's the only lesson we learn, that's just the best one, I think. So if someone listening, Karen, is experiencing any of the things that you talked about that you experienced in your relationship, and they're going through something similar, or they know someone who is, what steps would you say they could take, simple steps today, to begin to start to change their situation?
The biggest step you have to realize is whoever you are with, they are supposed to be a bonus in your life. They're not supposed to drain you. They're not supposed to control you and tell you what to do. They are supposed to add to your happiness. If they're not, ask yourself, what do I need to be happy? It's a hard one to answer, because if you've never really known happiness, you wouldn't necessarily know what to say to yourself. However, the best thing you can say in this instance is, I want to know me. Because we don't know ourselves.
That's such a great starting point, Karen. Yeah. I mean, even if it's just like, I like hanging out with my cat, or I like, sitting and watching the sunrise, or I love spending time with this particular friend. It can start with small things that, and then you experience what that happiness is, and then you can kind of expand on that, can't you? So I know that you're also known as the manifesting lady. So how did that come about?
I got the title because I used to have conversations with people, networking at my workshops, just over the phone even with people. And they would come back to me and say, Karen, you told me this. Well, this has happened, and this has happened, and this has happened. I saved them money. I showed them ways, even just having those conversations, they were able to bring more clients on board. They've been able to make more money. They'd actually changed their relationship, because it was like, you said to do this, and I did. And oh boy, did it make a difference. So I got the title because I empowered them in just having conversations that made them think about themselves in different ways. So they actually empowered themselves by taking action on what I suggested.
Brilliant.
So that's how I got the title.
Love it. What a great title. So talk to us a little bit about manifesting then, because there are going to be people watching, Karen, who are going to be thinking, well, I actually don't think I believe in manifesting the things that I want, because let's face it, I don't already have them. So of course I don't believe it's possible. So what would you say?
Well, the first thing I'd say to them is you're manifesting. You are manifesting the things you don't want. It's as simple as that. We manifest what we think about, what we don't want. I haven't got. So no, you're not going to have it if you think you haven't got it. You have to change how you think about manifesting. If you say to yourself, I want to be better health. What does better health mean? I want better health. What does that mean? Because we can all say, oh, I want to feel better. I want to, I don't want to have cancer or an autoimmune disease or being fat or anything like that. But you're actually saying you're wanting it, because the universe does not understand the word don't or anything negative. It only understands when you state what you clearly do want. So if you're using the word don't, you're telling the universe, please give me more.
Yeah. And it's also about the feeling, isn't it, Karen, that you think about what you want specifically, like you're saying, but also you feel the feeling of already having it, like even if it seems an impossible thing.
Funny enough, I don't. I'm the world's worst for that. I actually feel my intention is far more effective, because as a child, I cut myself off from feeling. my face shows emotions, but I'm not conscious of what those emotions are. So I find that for me, having that intention, I'll give you a prime example of what I mean. I had moved out from Worthing, where I was living, and I'd gone to a friend's, and I was staying with a friend because I didn't know where I wanted to go. And I simply arrived at my friend. She said, well, you've got a month to stay and then you're going to have to move on because I've got things happening. That's fine, no issue. So after she told me that, I deliberately set out to find myself my home. All I did was express a desire to be in the countryside with other people near me. I didn't mind where it was, and that it was going to be a place where I could settle for a while. Within 10 days, I had found my new home on a farm near London with other people.
Fabulous. So if you're not feeling the feeling, which I know works for a lot of people, you're actually picturing that. So
I am setting that intention. I am saying to the universe, this is what I want. Go and find it. I'll take action, but bring it to me.
And it's that
pure intention, that certainty that the universe is going to provide it, so long as I could tell it my minimum requirements, it would do it.
That's the key, isn't it? Certainty. The certainty. I love it. Okay. So what is the most exciting thing you've ever manifested?
Oh, what's the most exciting thing?
Or the most wonderful thing?
I suppose the most wonderful thing was manifesting being able to be on a farm all through COVID.
Yes, lovely.
Because I had total freedom. Nobody, the people that were in the other part of the farmhouse, they disappeared because they had to stay at work. I had a whole farm to myself through COVID.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
It's phenomenal. Wildlife, there was so much wildlife.
Fabulous. So obviously I'm going to put all your links below this YouTube video, and I highly recommend that you will go and check Karen out and see what she does, because she does amazing things. Why would you say, Karen, that you're the right person to work with?
Okay, now I'm going to be a bit controversial, probably. I don't believe in needing to talk your trauma or abuse through, because all you're doing is re-traumatizing. I believe that working with me, you can get to the soul level and discover what you need to learn from that experience, because you've come here to learn from any abuse or trauma you experience. You can take the lessons and you can utilize those lessons to improve your life. But the one thing that you realize is every relationship you have leaves an energetic imprint. Whether it's memories, whether it's physical scarring, whether it's emotional scarring, it will leave an imprint. And it doesn't have to be from this lifetime. If you find that energetic imprint and release it, you are free to create the life that you love.
Well, I don't know about controversial, but I'm totally with you on that one. I absolutely wouldn't want to work with anyone who is re-triggering that trauma. So well said. One final question, Karen. When you are no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
I would love to be remembered as the woman that taught women that they are powerful.
Fabulous. Love it. Karen Bashford, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you for inviting me to do so. It's been wonderful.